Good afternoon, class. Well, we've got the first discussion board in the books, so to speak. I hope that you had a good week in learning about the various aspects of the first discussion board, and they're all graded now, so you can take a look at that. I tried to make pretty substantive comments so that you can really improve on next week's discussion board. Of course, I do want to highlight a couple of things that will really help the discussion boards just to continue to get better and better and allow you to get the best possible credit, because that's certainly what I want you to do. And I know that that's what you want too. So just note a couple of things. Let's talk through a couple of things quickly, and then we'll move on to this week. First of all, make sure that you answer two different sets of questions. In the assignment, you'll see that there are numbered questions, and you have to answer two of those numbered questions. Some of the students only answered one, and so therefore I couldn't give you full credit on that. Also, in the replies, this is very important. In the replies, please make sure that you reply to two different questions as well as two different students. Some of you are replying to two different students, but replying to the same question. And it's just better for the learning process, and make sure that you don't overlap in your replies, just to answer two different ones. But that will also help you prepare for the quiz that is this week. So just take note of that, please. Also, in your footnote citation of the textbook, if you are using the second edition, please make sure that you note that it is the second edition in the footnote citation. That's important. Also, the Bible is not a scholarly source, and not only that, the Bible is not cited in a footnote. In fact, the Bible is cited in a parenthetical note. In other words, what you would do is put the reference to the biblical passage in parentheses, and you'd put that inside the period. There should be an example in the School of Divinity writing manual or in Turabian of a parenthetical note for a biblical reference. So you don't have to cite that in a footnote, but also recognize that, looking at 5 scholarly citations for the original threads, and then also the 2 citations for each reply, the Bible will not count as one of those sources. So just make sure you remember that. Also, let's talk a little bit about this upcoming week. Another thing, just make sure that you answer each question, each part of each question, because there'll be a number 1, and let's say if you pick number 1, there'll be 7 parts of that. Make sure you answer each and every part as thoroughly as possible, giving me all of the important, pertinent information. Now this week, of course, there's only going to be 3 questions, and you have to pick 2 of those in the discussion board assignment. Now, the reason why there's only 3 this week is because I want to make it easier for you, because you do have a quiz on that's due by Sunday. But let's talk through a little bit of this upcoming week's discussion board questions. The first has to do with really the various quests for the historical Jesus. Now, this question historically has been difficult for students, just simply because you really need to give a good description of each quest, noting the dates for the quest, but also noting the specific scholars or figures that were responsible for that specific quest. So as you walk through that, give a very good definition and describe the emphases of each one of those quests, and note the particular scholars that represent that quest. And also make sure that you do the next part of the question. What are the 2 challenges to Jesus, contemporary challenges? Just answer each one of those questions. But the most difficult part of this question students have is really with just describing the quests well. So if you pick that one, make sure you do a good job with the quest. It's a good one. It's just it just demands a little more detail and thoroughness. Well, they all do, but I think if you read it, you'll understand what I'm talking about. Then the next question is really straightforward, just listing the various types of criteria. And there's, of course, you'll see, but you just need to make sure you list the various criteria, and then also make sure that you define it. You define each criteria very well. And that excuse me, and that specifically, that will be a big part. And then also make sure you answer the question about where the burden of the proof lies. And then, of course, the opinion question about a skeptic. But that's pretty straightforward. I think you guys will nail that one, just as long as you list and define each one of those criteria. Then the next one has to do with, the chronology of Jesus's life, death, and ministry, asking for dates of his birth, and then also dates of his death. And the important thing about this question is a lot of times students leave out the important pieces of data that help us establish the various dates that are listed in that question. And so you may have to read and really note the very specific pieces of data that really kind of help. They're both biblical pieces of data, but there's also extra biblical pieces of data. So make sure you note all of those. And then, answer each part of that question. A lot of times students overlook the last part, which has to do with the significance of the genealogy, especially in Matthew's genealogy. But make sure you note the theological significance of that genealogy, what's being communicated there. That's really important. And really, it's a big part of what's trying to be communicated in the Gospel of Matthew. So those are the three questions. Make sure you nail down those dates. Do the best and the most thorough job you can. Listen here, again, just a little clue about the quiz. It'll be a lot of material, a lot of reading, right? But just if you read over the material time and time again, highlighting, and then review your highlighted material time and time again, I think that'll help you answer the questions well. But at the very least, because it is an open book quiz, right? And it's timed, but if you don't know a question, the specific answer to a question, however, but if you are familiar with the book, you'll know exactly where to find the answer to that question as quickly as possible. So, this first quiz, usually students do well, but you have to study hard. Typically, there is some disparity, but I think, if you study really hard, if you're very familiar with the material, you'll do very good. And sometimes one of the good ways to study is just to answer all of the questions that you find in the discussion board threads in a thorough way, and that will prepare you. But I think reading through it all, highlighting, going over it time and time again will really give you how you can answer those quizzes. Well, listen, again, overall, I think you guys did a pretty good job this week. Keep learning, keep working hard, keep trying to improve. That's a big, big deal. And also, just have a great week. Enjoy the learning process. I know it's sometimes hard when you're juggling so many different responsibilities, but carve out time. Try to be disciplined and use the time. And if you have any questions, need any help, listen, please shoot me an email. I will reply as quickly as I can, and that's what I'm here for. I want to help you guys. I want you guys to do great. All right. So have a great week, and God bless you guys. All right.